Are you ready for the largest Drupal event in Europe? After the success of DrupalCon Amsterdam and DrupalCon Europe Virtual, the organizing committee, Kwony Tumblr Congress, and its wonderful team of volunteers are excited to gather again in person in Prague. What to expect? Inspiring keynotes including Driesnote, hundreds of sessions and BOFs, hours of contribution to Drupal, meetings with sponsors and exhibitors, and a lot of fun with your Drupal friends. Mark your calendar, 20 to 23 September, O2 Universum, Prague. The city of 100 spires is waiting for you. Registration's opening soon. More info on the event website.
Good morning, everybody. So I hope you didn't stay out too late. Is everyone awake? It's day 3. So yeah, oh, that sounds super enthusiastic. So why don't we do a show of hands if you've met someone new or found an old friend? Oh, that's awesome. Look at that. So we're super excited to see that because community is so important to the Drupal Association and to Drupal. So I'm Ashlee Noland. I'm filling in for our acting executive director, Angie Sabin. She couldn't be here with us this morning. So we just have a few things to cover before we are here for the main event. So really quickly, or not necessarily quickly, but we did want to respond to what's happening in Ukraine. And we all want you to know that the DA stands with Ukraine. I've included a resource on the slide for those of you that are looking for ways to support Ukraine. This is one of many out there. To our Ukrainian community, we stand with you and hold you in our thoughts. And I also want to specifically mention our sponsors in Ukraine, Anyforsoft and Limburg. Thank you for being a part of DrupalCon. And Dries will also be sharing a message regarding the Ukrainian community later this morning. So it's hard to believe, but registration opens soon now for DrupalCon Prague 2022. So we're super excited about that. Registration opens in May, so hard to believe. And then we're already planning our DrupalCon North America in Pittsburgh. So that is going to be June 5th through the 9th next year. So we're super excited. Save the date. We also wanted to talk about our Discover Drupal sponsors. At the Drupal Association, we have a new program that we're really excited about, Discover Drupal. So if you haven't heard about what Discover Drupal is yet, it's our very first scholarship and training program. And we are wrapping up our first year. So just a quick shout out to 4 of our Discover Drupal graduates who are here at the conference. We have Devin, Nadia, Jose, and Joseph. If you want to stand up, let's give a round of applause. That's so exciting. So good to see you all. And thank you to our sponsoring organizations and camps for the financial support that made this first year and bringing the students to DrupalCon a reality. And also thank you to Allison Manley and Amy Junes Heinlein for your tireless work, and our training partners, Drupal Easy, Evolving Web, Media Current, and Drupalize Me. So thank you very, very much. So the Drupal Association. DrupalCon is shaped by a dedicated staff, logistics team, and volunteers. So thank you. Thank you to all of the volunteers and all the DA staff that make DrupalCon possible, that make the DA possible. You may not know that the Drupal Association is the organization that puts on this extraordinary event every year, but we do more than deliver this amazing event. We work to unite everyone who build with benefits from Drupal in a global community of innovation, built on collaboration and inclusion. And I'm going to pass it to Tim to introduce exactly who we are. So thank you.
Awesome. Good to see you, everyone. I want to humanize the Drupal Association as an organization. We've met many of you But I want to introduce you, show us our faces so that you can say hello throughout this event and when you see us online as well. So this is the leadership team. You've seen us on stage. Angie, our acting executive director, myself as the CTO, and Ashlee as our development officer, helping to secure the funding that makes the Drupal Association sustainable. We have great members of a staff who've made this event possible, who make Drupal.org possible, who make the collaboration tools that we use together possible and advance the community. And we're also thrilled to be welcoming some new consultants to the team, some new faces you haven't seen before, who you're seeing here at the event, you may have seen on stage already, and who you'll see online as well. As you may see, it's a small team, but a mighty team that does lots of things for this community. And speaking of what we do, our mission is based on your needs as the Drupal community, and we've put together sort of 5 pillars for our strategic vision for what the Drupal Association should be and what we want to accomplish for you. You can find them here, and you can come and speak to us afterwards at the DA booth, and we can tell you more about all of these wonderful programs. To talk about just a few of the things that we've done with your support, especially through things like the Drupal Cares fundraiser. We raised more than $500,000 to support the Drupal Association at the beginning of the pandemic. Thank you. We launched the Discover Drupal program, whose students we just applauded earlier. We've enabled contribution with more than 1,500 unique contributors on a monthly average over the course of the last year. Supported the Drupal Evaluator journey on Drupal.org. We get more than 16 million visitors to Drupal.org every year who are coming to understand what our community is, what the Drupal product is, and why they should become involved. And then we've also focused on making sure that we have diversity, equity, and inclusion content on the main stage at every DrupalCon, and also collaborated with the Drupal Diversity and Inclusion Group for all of the wonderful events that they're doing as well, independently, and we hope you'll check them out too. Finally, we do a lot of engineering initiatives to support the community. Everything from accelerating our migration to GitLab, supporting the security team's collaboration tools, all of the sites and subsites, and the contribution recognition tools that we use to recognize the individuals and organizations that contribute to Drupal. With that, I want to hand it back to Ashlee to talk about why your support is so important.
All right, this is the fun stuff, the money stuff, right? So without the Drupal Association, as you can see, it's really hard to imagine Drupal without the DA. So that would mean a project without support, without our engineering expertise, and without project innovation. So if you look around, and I know a lot of you raised your hands with meeting old friends and new folks, so it would be really hard to imagine Drupal without the community. With the Drupal Association, finally, the bright side of things, as the former sounded pretty dismal, but that's why we exist. We exist because you, the community, saw a need for a collective voice, and we continue to listen and to innovate, which in turn has led to gigantic growth to many of our supporting partner agencies and agencies that are not yet supporting partners. So that I'm talking to you. You definitely need to become a supporting partner agency of the DA. We offer many different ways to give back to the project that has given you so much. Thank you. So these are the different ways in which we have the availability for you to support us. So you can become a member or individual donor of the DA. You can you can contribute to the project by using skills that you have. Become a certified or supporting partner. Of course, we talked about Discover Drupal, which is an amazing program, and you can check out some more information on that on our website. And you can also reach out to Angie Sabin if you have some questions about Discover Drupal. And you can definitely contact me. You can write a check to me directly, or however you guys are wanting to do that. So all in all, we can only do this together. Drupal is only as good as the people that decide to contribute back to it. So unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's just not. So without further ado, I think this is the reason that we're all here. I'm going to welcome Dries to the stage.
Awesome. Good job. Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a good DrupalCon so far. Did you? Yeah? For me, it's been really wonderful, actually. I've seen so much passion and love for Drupal. It's kind of hard to experience online, to be honest, or not to the same extent. The last few nights, I had a chance to hang out with a lot of the sort of agency owners as well. And one of the things that struck me is that all of their businesses are doing actually incredibly well. So that's really encouraging to see as well. So many great things are happening. It feels really good to be back. I will say, though, I also forgot how exhausting it is to hang out in person, you know. I feel like I need to work out and come prepared a little bit more next time around. Before I get into sort of the meat of the presentation, I did want to spend a few minutes talking about Ukraine. Like many of you, I've watched with shock how Russia has attacked Ukraine over the past few months. And I too wanted to be clear that myself, as well as the Drupal Association and the Drupal project, you know, that we condemn the Russian attack. And so one of the things that you may not be aware of is how important the Ukraine Drupal community is to Drupal. On this chart, the chart on the screen, you probably figured it out by now, but it basically shows you the 10 most active countries in terms of contribution to the Drupal project. And we measure that using the credit system, and you can clearly see that Ukraine is the 6th most active contributing country in the Drupal community. Now, I think it's even more impressive than that, because if you were to look at this data per capita, right, what that means is if you take the total number of contributions for each country and you divided it by the number of people that live in that country, they would probably be number 1 or number 2. I didn't do the exercise, but I'm pretty sure that would improve their ranking even more. So no matter how you look at it, the Ukraine community is really important and vital to the success of the Drupal community. And so with the help of Batty, we reached out to the Ukraine community. And we asked them if they had a few messages to share with us here at DrupalCon, because obviously it's really hard for them to participate at this event. And so we captured that in a video. I'm going to play it right now.
Hello, Drupal community. My name is Anatoly Pazhin. I'm CEO at Any4Soft, and I'm from Kharkiv, Ukraine. We might met with some of you on different Drupal events in Europe and United States. We participate in sponsoring Drupal camps and DrupalCons. Unfortunately, I cannot be at the current event, as well as DrupalCon Portland, where we are sponsors as well.
My name is Sveta. I'm Drupal developer by 1x, since 2017. I'm from Ukraine, from small cozy city Sumy, which is located 60 kilometers from border with Russia, and now my Sumy is occupied.
Hello, my name is Anatoly. I am from Kyiv, Ukraine. I work with Drupal since 2006, and last 3 years I work as Drupal architect in ImageX company.
Hi, my name is Bogdan Artemchuk, and I am from the Drupal capital of Ukraine, Lutsk city.
Hi, I'm Alla. I'm from Lutsk in Ukraine. I've started to work with Drupal back in 2015.
My name is Andriy Podanenko, and this is Uliana Podanenko.
Hello, Drupalers. My name is Dmitry Loresk. I am from Kharkiv, Ukraine.
Hi, it's Lena Moskalik here. I am from Kremenets, which is in western Ukraine.
Hey, Drupal community. I'm Alex Chadrov, and I'm from Kiev.
I try to contribute to Drupal ecosystem a lot, as that's why I do a lot of coding in different models, and I'm taking part in the organization team at Drupal Camp Kyiv. We were on hold for 2 years, and the day before the war, I was planning to start sending invitation to many places in the world to visit our conference in June.
Also, I've always been a part of Drupal community in Ukraine, helping to organize Drupal code sprints and Drupal cafes, and of course Drupal Camp Kyiv, one of the largest Drupal conferences in Europe.
I'm with Drupal since 2002 it was Drupal 3. I am a long-term contributor. You might know me on Drupal.org via my nick, Podarak. I am maintainer of 100 modules probably, or more.
Even now, when there is a war here, we are teaching students for free in our remote Drupal school.
I want to thank you all for supporting Ukraine.
I want to say thank you to everyone who tries to help and support Ukraine and Ukrainians people, because right now we really need your attention and your help.
I want to say thank you to Drupal community in Europe for your willingness to help and support us. The amount of letters and messages we receive is huge. People are offering their apartments and donating to our charitable foundations and bringing the humanitarian aid. Thank you so much for that. We truly, deeply appreciate it, and please keep standing with Ukraine.
So yeah. It's a powerful video, I think. Definitely makes my heart heavy watching it and thinking about all the destruction that's happening there and how members of our community are impacted. The Drupal Association did post a statement a while ago, and in that statement there is a list of resources and links of ways you can give back and help. So please consider supporting these organizations or one of your choosing. So with that, I'm going to dive into the program, if you will. I'm going to talk about two things today. It's fairly simple: Drupal 10 and Drupal 11. I know for some of you, Drupal 11 sounds like a crazy idea to talk about, but we will, and I'll explain why we have to talk about it now. So we have a lot to cover, so let's get started. First, I have a few updates on Drupal 10. Some of you may already read the news yesterday, but as you might remember from previous keynotes, we had targeted June of this year, 2022, to release Drupal 10. That would have been roughly 2 months from today, but last week we made the decision that we had to move the Drupal 10 release date to our scheduled release window in December. This was always kind of a plan B that we had planned for and taken into account. And the reason why we have to move the release back is that we have more work to do on CK Editor 5. As some of you might know, we're upgrading CK Editor 4 to CK Editor 5. And CK Editor 5 is a complete rewrite of CK Editor with no backwards compatibility, with no upgrade path. It's a little bit like going from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, I think. And so we've spent thousands of hours, the Drupal project. We've spent thousands of hours creating an upgrade path from CK Editor 4 to CK Editor 5. And it's actually working pretty well, but there is a little bit more work to do. And we're working very closely with CK Source, the company behind CK Editor, and it's been a great collaboration. And so the end result is that it will be easy for everybody using Drupal to upgrade from CK Editor 4 to CK Editor 5, but the work isn't done yet. We just need a little bit more time. Later in the presentation, I'll show you some of the cool new innovations in CK Editor 5, but for now, I just wanted to talk about the timing of the release. All right. I have a couple of quick updates, 4 or 5 quick updates on Drupal 10, things that I want you to be aware of and maybe share with others as well. But the first one is that Drupal 10 will update Symfony from Symfony 4 to Symfony 6.2. And Symfony, by the way, is a framework, the PHP framework that Drupal relies heavily on. And 6.2 will be the latest and the greatest framework. I think it will be so great because it hasn't actually been released yet. But it will be released in time for Drupal 10. And I think that's very exciting because it means that as a developer, you get access to the latest and the greatest features of Symfony. But it also means that if you are using custom modules, your own modules, and you rely on Symfony components, you have to start thinking about upgrading those. All right? Just something to keep in mind. We've also decided that we will increase the minimum requirements for PHP. We'll bring it to 8.1, and there's a number of reasons for that, but one of the main reasons is actually that Symfony 6.2 will require PHP 8.1, right? And so again, that's exciting. You get to use all of the new innovations in PHP, but also you have to think about upgrading your custom code to PHP 8.1. The good news here is you can actually start that work today, because Drupal 9.3 already works with PHP 8.1, so there's no reason to wait. You can actually start upgrading your custom code. And because we're moving back the Drupal 10 release, we will actually sort of make an additional release if you want, right? We're going to release 9.4 in June, and then we're going to release 9.5 in December, and 9.5 will be identical to Drupal 10, minus the backwards compatibility layers. All right? And the final reminder for Drupal 10 is, that Drupal 9 will be end of life in November of 2023. So what that means is that once Drupal 10 is released, you have about 11 months to upgrade your sites from 9 to 10. So again, I wanted to share that with you because you probably want to plan for that. However, we made it the easiest upgrade in the history of Drupal. And some of you may go like, yeah. We've heard that before. But it's actually really true, and I can give you data points. This might be a little tricky to follow, but on the day that we released Drupal 9, 71% of the deprecated API users in contributed projects had automated fixes. On the day that we released, 71. Today, 93% of the deprecations have automated fixes. And we haven't released Drupal 10 yet, right? So hopefully by the day we release Drupal 10, that number has even gone up a lot more. So check out all of these automations that we have for you. It's pretty exciting. Alrighty, let's talk a little bit about what's next in Drupal 10. And I've talked about some of these things in the past. I'm going to try and go fairly quickly through a number of the initiatives. All right, the first one is Olivero. Yeah. Olivero is Drupal's new front-end theme, and it's actually stable. It is gorgeous. It looks amazing. And it's also by far the most accessible theme that we've ever shipped in the history of Drupal. Something that we should be proud of, yeah. And we're on track to make it the default as well. So not only do we try to make it stable, we also try to make it default so that we can show it off to everyone that installs Drupal, right? It will be their first impression, if you will. Mike Herschel is leading this initiative. He has a contribution room tomorrow at 10 a.m., I think. Is that right? So tomorrow at 10, feel free to join Mike, and maybe we can finish it. That would be nice. Yeah. Then we have Claro. Claro is... Yeah. Claro is the new backend theme for Drupal, so the admin theme, if you will. And coming into DrupalCon, there was just a couple of accessibility issues left that needed to be fixed. And I got word last night, that those were fixed, and that Olivero was actually made the default theme in Drupal 10, which is super exciting. And of an action shot of that, here's a photo. So from left to right, you see Lori, Angie, and Christina. And Lori and Christina have been the initiative leads, have done so much work on Olivero. Yeah, and Angie is a core committer, and she committed the patch from the hotel, I imagine, where they made Claro the default. So I think it's a beautiful photo. I mean, look at the faces. It shows real happiness. So this is the result of years of work trying to make Olivero stable. So thank you for everybody that helped with Olivero. All right, let's keep going. Starter Kit. Many of you might be less familiar with Starter Kit, so let me try and explain it really, really briefly. Starter Kit provides a new way of theming for Drupal, right? So instead of sub-theming or overriding, whatever you want to call it, classy, and having a runtime dependency on classy, what Starter Kit does, it basically generates you a theme. And it's different in that it's more of a fork or a clone. It's maybe a simple way to think about it. The advantage is that there's no dependency, no runtime dependency on classy. It means we can innovate faster. I won't go into the details here. But Starter Kit has made a lot of progress. It's in alpha, but it's actually on track to be stable for Drupal 10. The path to stable isn't that hard. There isn't that many issues to take care of. So as you can tell, there will be a lot of theming improvements in Drupal 10. We'll have a new front-end theme, we'll have a new back-end theme, we'll have a new way of creating themes. And when we complete all of these things, we can also move a lot of things out of core. We can move Bartik 7 classy and stable from Drupal core to Contrib, which is exciting as well. So I'm very excited about all of these things because it will really change the way people perceive Drupal, right? One of the funny things is that Drupal has gotten so much better over the last years. But when you install Drupal today, you still see like a 10-year-old theme, which is kind of crazy. And so that will be gone with Drupal 10. So pretty exciting things. While on the topic of moving, themes from core to Contrib, we're also planning to move modules from core to Contrib. And so far, we've moved 2 already. Aggregator and Hall, and you can see some of the other modules that we're still trying to move. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later in the presentation, but for now I just wanted to give you that update. If you're actively using any of these, have no fear. We are finding maintainers for all of them, right? So we won't abandon these modules. We'll provide a graceful transition from core to Contrib. All right, and then there's CK Editor. As I mentioned, we're still working on the upgrade from 4 to 5. It's going to take a little bit more time. But what I haven't told you yet is all of the new features that come with CK Editor 5. And in short, it has a vastly improved authoring experience. It will look a lot more like Word or Microsoft Word, or Google Docs. And it also has an array of plugins or integrations that give CK Editor superpowers, if you will. And so it's actually better to show you. And so I have Lori talk about some of the new features in CK Editor 5. So let's take a look at the video.
CK Editor 5 is included as part of Drupal 9.3 as an experimental module. With this module, you can enable CK Editor 5 on a text format. If your text format previously used CK Editor 4, the configuration will be automatically migrated to CK Editor 5. Now that we have enabled CK Editor 5 on our text format, we can take a look at the vastly improved user experience. One of the major improvements in CK Editor 5 is a new contextual balloon. This allows editing content inline in the editor without having to enter a modal dialog that would interrupt the content creation flow of content creators. The Drupal media integration has been rebuilt from scratch to master CK Editor 5 user experience. This means that all embedded media settings can now be edited inline in the editor. Any changes to the embedded media content can be seen in the preview immediately. Images can be now uploaded by dragging images to CK Editor 5. All of the buttons in CK Editor 5 have been tailored for the needs of the content creator. An example of this is the new image alignment experience. All of the alignment options have an icon and label that explain how each of the alignment options behave. We are excited about CK Editor 5 and the improvements it brings to Drupal. We hope that you are excited about it too.
Yeah. Very exciting stuff, huh? And the good news is if you're interested in CK Editor 5, there's actually a session today at 1 p.m. David Urbanski, I think I'm pronouncing that right. He's from CK Source, the company behind CK Editor, is actually here and is going to talk about CK Editor 5 at 1. So if you want to learn more, go to that session. All right, next quick update is automated updates. You may remember The way we define initiatives is through a big survey, thousands of people respond, and automated updates was the #1 feature request. And so I wanted to give you an update on that as well. And just as a quick reminder, the goal of this initiative is to basically automatically but safely update core as well as contributed modules, and doing so leveraging Composer under the hood, right? Really meant to make the upgrade process a lot easier. And the team behind it has made incredible progress, a very exciting progress. And so I have a video from Ted that can give you that update. So let's take a look at that as well.
Hi, I'm Ted Bowman, one of the technical leads of the Automatic Updates initiative. I'm here to provide a quick update on the progress we've made, not only on providing updates to Drupal core, but also to introduce Package Manager, the API we have created to support Composer operations. It will also be used by Project Browser and hopefully other innovative contrib modules. Because Composer has been a pain point for many site builders, I'm excited to see what the community can build with these tools to make the site building experience easier. I will demonstrate updates on my personal blog, which is a Drupal 9 site that has a handful of contributed modules. It also shows that I've mastered the skill of tilting a heading when you hover over it. Let's look at the updates I need to make on my site. I need a security update for Drupal core and regular updates for a handful of modules. The simple form provided with automatic updates allows me to easily update to a secure version of Drupal core. The system runs readiness checks to ensure that my site meets the basic requirements for updating Drupal core, and creates a copy of the site where it will run the Composer command to update Drupal core. After it has run the update Composer command, it inspects the updated copy to see if everything is as expected. In this case, it has detected that I will need to run database updates after I apply this core update. In a future version, we should be able to run these updates automatically when the user submits this form, but for now, we'll be redirected to the existing database update page. If I don't think now would be a good time to run these database updates or decide not to update for any other reason, I can cancel this update and my site will remain unchanged. Since a demo of canceling an update would be anticlimactic, let's continue with the update. While the update is applying, the site is put into maintenance mode and certain actions like another user uninstalling a module are prevented. Since our update requires database updates, we are redirected to the database update page to complete the update process. Now let's go back to the available updates page to see our current status. Drupal core is now secure, but there are a number of contrib modules that still need updates. While the initial version of the automatic updates module that will be added to Drupal 10 will only support updates to Drupal core, we have been working on the ability to update contributed modules and themes so that this functionality can be thoroughly tested before it is added to Drupal core. Currently this is a hidden module because it is in an earlier development stage, but let's unhide it to see what it can do. Now that the module is enabled, we have a new Update Extensions tab. This form will let us update any module or themes that are out of date. I currently have 4 modules that need to be updated. Let's select them all to be updated. Again, a copy of my site is being created where the Composer command to update these modules will be run. Once the staged copy of my site has been updated, I will have a chance to confirm or cancel before the update is actually applied to my site. I'm feeling lucky, so let's apply these updates on my site. When the update is done, I will again run database updates to complete the update process. Now back on the available updates page, we can see that everything is up to date. I've updated core and all of my contributed modules via Composer without ever touching the command line. Finally, let's take a look at Package Manager. An API-only module that powers automatic updates, will eventually power Project Browser, and will also make it possible for contributed modules to add even more Composer-based functionality through the UI. As a simple example, let's look at the sandbox module I created called Project Installer. This simple module uses Package Manager to install any Drupal project in a simple form. The form class itself is only 75 lines long, including creating the form elements. Here's the submit method, which handles all the logic needed to get the project name from the form, require the project via Composer, inform the user it was added, and provide a message if the Composer operation was not successful. Finally, here's the interaction with the Package Manager stage object, which controls the update process. These 4 lines: create a staged copy of your site, run the Composer command to require the package on that copy, apply the changes back to your live site, and destroy the staged copy when the update process is finished. Let's give it a try. I'm going to choose to install the webform module. Of course, I'm cutting out the waiting time, but we have now installed the webform module via Composer on our site with basically 4 lines of code.
That's pretty cool, huh? Yeah. So great progress, and honestly, I do believe that maybe we're a little late to the game of automatic updates. When we get to the end, it will be better, much better than any other CMS in the market. So I'm pretty excited about it. We're developing this as a contributed module with the goal to move it into core. It's currently in beta, so you can actually go and test it. You can give feedback. We probably won't get it into Drupal 10.0. We might, depending on how many of you help. But the current plan is to get it maybe into 10.1 or maybe 10.2 in one of the first minor releases of Drupal 10, just to set expectations. We'll probably be talking about this more in future keynotes. Right after my talk, there's also a session. Ted will be there, and you can learn more about it. You can get involved with it, so we would love your help. So right after the keynote or after the Q&A, I'm not quite sure. All right, so that's kind of the quick update on Drupal 10. There's many other initiatives. I just don't have the time to cover them all in this keynote. So there's more exciting things happening. If you're excited about Drupal 10, you can actually start testing it. We are making alphas available. And the alphas, by the way, aren't for production, but they're great for testing your upgrade path, your custom modules, and giving us feedback. So feel free to check it out. Alrighty, so that was a quick Drupal 10 update. Lots of great progress. Let's talk a little bit about Drupal 11. And what I'd like to do is actually talk about purpose, our vision, and propose a strategy for Drupal 11, and then from there go to some initial proposed initiatives for Drupal 11. And for some of you, you're probably not in the mindset to talk about Drupal 11, but for others, it is important because now that we're starting to finalize Drupal 10, we actually have to start developing Drupal 11, right? So it's important that we talk about it so we can all work together on Drupal 11. So actually, let's start with the purpose. All right. So purpose, and for me, this is a topic near and dear to my heart because the reason why I contribute to Drupal has evolved. It's different from the original reason why I started the Drupal project. And purpose is a big part of that for me. And when I think about what Drupal has done the last 20 years, Drupal has made a large impact on the web, right? I firmly believe that Drupal has made the web better. And I'm incredibly proud of that as well. And I hope you are too, about Drupal's impact. And so for me, Drupal is much bigger than just being a CMS, right? With our scale and our reach, Drupal can help create a digital future that is better than the one that we have today. And that's important because the web is one of our most important public resources that are in existence today. And we, as a Drupal community, we can help make sure that we're building the best version of it that we can. And I don't know about you, but I don't want the web to become like cookie cutter, like Facebook, where every homepage looks the same, right? I want to see an open web where people can express themselves, they can be creative. It should be a web with millions of unique experiences and serendipity, That's how the web used to be, and I definitely would like to see that continue to be the case. I also want to build a future web and a digital future that I trust. I want my own children, to interact with the web, and I want them to be safe when they do, right? And so I want a web that is focused on security and data privacy, all of these things. And I want a web that's for everyone, that's very inclusive, And I think about a web that's very accessible, that's multilingual and global, because the world and the web are global. And so if you think about the fact that 1 out of 30 websites in the world run on Drupal, it means we operate at massive scale. I mentioned that. But it also means that if anyone visits 30 websites, they've actually, or statistically very likely to have used a Drupal site, right? They've visited a Drupal site. And that means that we have a lot of influence on the future of the web. And it's definitely why I contribute to Drupal. I'm sure it's why many of us contribute to Drupal. And it's also why you should consider getting involved if you aren't involved in contributing to Drupal yet. To me, it gives purpose. So I just wanted to, remind everybody of that. So from there, let's talk about vision. So 5 years ago, at DrupalCon Baltimore, I proclaimed that Drupal is for ambitious digital experiences. Some of you might remember. And I always felt that ambitious digital experiences was a really good phrase because it aligns with sort of the flexibility, the scalability, the speed, and the creative freedom that Drupal provides. And after I made this statement, we invested in headless, media, layout builder, and many other things to help people build ambitious digital experiences, all sorts of features to enable those ambitious digital experiences. But today I feel like maybe we have achieved that goal. We have built a very extensible, flexible tool, and we have delivered any possible ambitious digital experience that one can imagine. And we do it for a large percentage of the internet. Now, could we do more? Yes, of course. We're never done, right? But I also believe that it's time that we evolve our vision and our vision statement so that we can continue to drive our impact. And I've actually talked a little bit about this already in previous Driesnotes. You might recall this slide as well. And I talked about how Drupal's roots are about empowering site builders to build ambitious, websites with low code or no code solutions. And I've talked about how people fall in love with Drupal because they're able to create powerful websites really quickly, right? You can basically create anything you want and you can do it relatively fast. You can do it fast because you can often do it through the UI with things like views or fields. But when you have to make changes, you can, right? Because Drupal is open source, there is no limitations as to what you can do. And so this like mostly through the UI, but with some custom code combination is super powerful. It's what makes Drupal uniquely positioned. And so I've been thinking about that more, and it led me to this concept of an ambitious site builder. So let's dive into the ambitious site builder a little bit more. What is an ambitious site builder? Well, for me, it's like what I described, like somebody that does a lot of things through the UI, but is also able to write custom code. What do these people do? Well, they download modules, they install modules, obviously, they drag and drop things together, they have to update these modules, all these kinds of things. And I really believe that's the reason why Drupal became so successful. These people love Drupal, and Drupal loves ambitious site builders. And if you think about it, it's, as I mentioned, it's what makes Drupal so unique, because on the one hand, you have the frameworks. They don't allow you to assemble websites, right? They allow you to build websites writing a lot of code, which is great. But frameworks don't have UIs for site builders to use. And on the other end of the spectrum, you may have the SaaS solutions. SaaS solutions are very empowering because everybody can use them, but they also don't really allow you to write custom code, or maybe a little bit, but not to the extent that Drupal allows you to do. And so ambitious site builders, they kind of neatly sit in the spectrum in the middle between developers and let's call them content authors or more basic site builders. And Drupal fills that gap pretty well. And so I wanted to update our vision statement today. 5 years ago, I said, Drupal is for ambitious digital experiences. And today, I'd like to change it to, Drupal is for ambitious site builders. And I like it because ambitious site builders feels less ambiguous than ambitious digital experiences. It feels more specific. I also like that it's focused on a persona, on a person, right? Because it's easier to care about people than it is to care about digital experiences. I feel like it has more heart that way. And lastly, I feel like it captures our roots better, and that it aligns a little bit better with our purpose of enabling an open web and enabling everyone in the world to participate in building an open web. And so, I don't know, do you like it? Yeah? All right, so with that in mind, I'm glad you like it, because otherwise the rest of my slides would be like, I don't know what to do. So with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit more about strategy, right? And not just any strategy. I want to talk specifically about sort of the Drupal 11 strategy. That's one way to think about it, but look, I don't want to talk about a 5-year strategy, a 10-year strategy. I want it to be like more specific and be like, what do we need to do in the next 2 years? You know, let's keep it real. Let's stick with a reasonable time frame. And so that is what I want to talk about next. All right. All right. Let's do that. And the first part I want to focus on is on this, you know, empowering, ambitious site builder, this persona that we just talked about. What do? Well, they discover, install, configure, update modules. And the great thing about Drupal is that there's so much innovation going on in Contrib. There's like 8,000 modules or something for Drupal 9, and some incredible modules. I just picked a handful and put them on the screen, like Gin, you know, which makes a Drupal admin UI look, you know, fantastic. You know, it's built on Claro. Or Tome, which is a static site generation for Drupal. You know, not enough people are trying that. Or the Webform module, which is a top 10 module. Or Next.js for Drupal. I'm sure you've heard about it at this conference, but you should check it out. It allows you to go headless with Drupal in a very easy and fast way. And there's so many other amazing modules that exist in Contrib. The first thing I want to talk about, and I think of it as an opportunity, is that these modules, they tend to be hard to find, you know? And people don't really know about these things unless they go to an event or they hear somebody else talk about it. And we're even losing people because once they install Drupal core, they don't know where to go next. You know, they're kind of at loss at what's next. And so we have an opportunity to make this a lot easier. And actually to promote some of these great innovations, we can stand behind them. And the solution, obviously, is a project browser. The project browser is a strategic initiative that we announced a year ago. The vision is pretty simple. We want to recommend or highlight great modules to install. And we want people and users to be able to discover these modules from within Drupal, you know, without having to go to Drupal.org to remove friction from the process. And we want people to be able to install those modules with a click of a button, rather than having to use Composer or some other mechanism. At the same time, we still want to use Composer under the hood so that people can upgrade with Composer, etc. So, in other words, it's really all about making the discovery and installation of modules a lot easier. And I have a video to show as well. But before I do, here's some quick mock-ups of what this could look like. You know, you can see this is from within the Drupal admin UI, how we could be promoting different, you know, modules or themes or anything else. And I've asked Leslie, who is one of the initiative leads, to give us a quick update. So here goes.
This is an update on the Project Browser initiative. The goal is to make it easier to find and install modules for site builders and those new to Drupal. Note there are screenshots used in the presentation. Those are for decorative purposes. The MVP goals are the ability to browse modules compatible with the Drupal version your site is using, to provide instructions for downloading and installing modules, initially to filter by category, possibly adding advanced filtering, and it will be a contrib module. After MVP, the goals are to do automatic installs via Composer using the Automated Updates initiative, to include core modules in the browser results, to add additional filters such as ecosystem and/or use case, to have the detail pages be within the project browser instead of linking out to Drupal.org, and to expand to search themes and/or distributions, and to be a core module. In the MVP, categories will be the key filter for finding modules. There are currently 55 categories, and each module is assigned to between 0 and 30 categories. Interviews with our target audience have shown that the current categories are overwhelming and not helpful when browsing for modules. We're trying to improve on that. Should we remove, combine, rename, or add categories, and possibly should we limit the number of categories assigned to each module? By default, the project browser will return the most popular modules that meet the default criteria for recommended modules. On the card that is displayed for each module, we need a short description for what the module does in non-technical terms, a logo, and the categories that the module fits into. Improving the project pages on Drupal.org, the goal is to give module evaluators a high-level information so they can make an informed decision. Making the project pages more consistent will help us with that goal. We'll be fetching data about projects from Drupal.org using an API. The current API doesn't support all the features we need and likely will be deprecated when Drupal.org goes to Drupal 9. So we're in the process of creating a mock API to help identify what Drupal.org needs to support. UI improvements to the current prototype are needed based on feedback from user testing and interviews with our target audience. So why am I excited about the project browser? I've been working with Drupal beginners for over 10 years doing trainings and mentoring at contribution days. I saw firsthand the struggles that folks face once they install Drupal and want to then add functionality. Taking folks to the terminal is hard. The current Drupal.org extend page is overwhelming. It's complex. There's not a lot of consistency across the project pages. I was super excited to learn about this strategic initiative to make browsing for projects easier and felt that I could contribute right away given my experience. I went to the first meeting and Chris Wells, also from Redfin, was there. Thanks to Redfin Solutions for giving both of us the time to contribute to this initiative. So how can you join the initiative? Well, join the Project Browsers channel on Drupal Slack and attend the weekly meetings that we hold there. Work on open issues. Everyone's welcome. All types of contributors and all different skill levels are welcome. Thanks to all who have contributed so far to the initiative. Thanks to all the project maintainers who have done all the work over the years and continue to do great work. A special shout out to the Discover Drupal participants for their contributions to this initiative. Chris Wells will be in the general contribution room the rest of this week. I will be in the mentored contribution room. There will be a BOF held, a Birds of a Feather session, a discussion held at 2:30 today on how to get involved in the Project Browser initiative. Please join us there, and thank you very much.
Awesome, yeah. Thank you, Leslie, and thank you, Chris, as well, for leading this initiative. So you can easily see how this helps with discovery and installation of Drupal module. Now, that's all great, obviously, but it's still not perfect, right? It's still not perfect because Project Browser focuses on installing individual modules. And often you have to install like 30 modules or 50 modules when you're building a website. And you need to configure them all one by one. And so we have a solution for that as well. And we're calling it Starter Templates. It's a new concept. We haven't talked about this in a Driesnote, but let me explain the idea. An example starter template could be a product site template, right? What it would do is it would install all the required modules to have a product website, to make it sort of a top-notch product, website. So that could include the carousel modules to show images. Maybe it would come with web form, so you can request a demo. Maybe it comes with a bunch of content types, so you can have data sheets, whatever it would be. Another example could be an event starter template. So you can, would come with modules so people can RSVP, you can put a program together, you can have speaker, bios, these kinds of things, right? And the idea would be these starter templates, you would find them on Drupal.org, obviously, so you could start from them on Drupal.org, but you could also browse them maybe like so, you can choose between a lot of these different starter templates. Now, the way we could build those, and by the way, we haven't figured out the details yet, that's why we have the next 2 years, but the way we could build those is basically using Composer, as you can see on the screen, right? Along with some configuration files, maybe even, a simple module that kind of makes some, provide some default settings or that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of the idea. Now, of course, many of you, maybe, might be wondering, isn't that what distributions are? Haven't we talked about that? And yes, but the idea here is that we would make it better and simpler. And we've had distributions for 15 years, and we've learned a lot of things from those. And one of the things that we've learned is that they're actually pretty hard to build and expensive to maintain. And we believe that this notion of starter templates could be a lot easier to create. Think about a composer JSON file, right? That's hopefully not too difficult. And maybe even ambitious site builders can create those, which is pretty exciting. There's other things that we want to do, like making those starter templates available in Project Browser and allowing you to stack or combine multiple starter templates. Like maybe you start with a blog, your blog gets really, well trafficked, well visited, and maybe you want to start selling some t-shirts. Well, now you want to install the commerce starter template on top of your blog. That's not something you could do with a distribution today. Distributions lock you in. You can't really switch to something else or add a second distribution on top of it. So that's the idea. If you're a long-term contributor, you probably have a million questions for me about how this would work, and that's great. The good news is that Alex Spott, one of the core committers, and other core contributors, they've done a good deal of thinking about this. They've put some ideas together, and these are starting points that we can build from. And so hopefully in the next months, we can start to flesh out some of the details a little bit more. I'm excited about it because it would really help with sort of more real-life user scenarios where people have to use many, many modules and configure them all together. All right. And the last opportunity is to make updates easier. And of course, I've already talked about this. I don't have to go through it again with the automated updates initiative. Ted gave a great demo, and we saw a lot of great progress. So if you think about empowering ambitious site builders, what we've identified is that we need to focus on these three things: Project Browser, starter templates, and automated updates. It really helps them with the entire life cycle of the things that they do. Right, next I want to talk about accelerating innovation. And accelerating innovation by empowering contributors. There's two topics in here. One is that we want to offer you better tools, and we've talked about that in the past with the GitLab initiative. And so, as you might know, we're moving away from our home-built, homegrown solution to GitLab, and we're doing so in a responsible way because we don't want to lose some of the features and capabilities that are so unique and important to Drupal, like the credit system, the way we package releases, these kinds of things. And so Tim Lehnen, the CTO of the Drupal Association, is going to give us a quick update on the progress that they've made towards the GitLab migration. Let me play that video.
With the GitLab Acceleration Initiative, we want to streamline and modernize the contributor experience. We laid out some ambitious goals at the last DrupalCon, but before I dive into details, I want to start by thanking all of you. Just supporting the infrastructure for a project as large as Drupal is a big undertaking, but transforming that infrastructure, that wouldn't be possible without you. So to everyone who has supported the Drupal Association by buying your DrupalCon ticket, becoming a member, or making a donation, thank you. You've made this work possible. So what are the upcoming features you can expect as a contributor to Drupal? The first major feature that's coming is in the transition from Drupal CI to GitLab CI. In Drupal CI, we provide a matrix of Drupal, PHP, and database versions to test your code against. By using semantic labels to choose your environment versions, we ensure that contrib module testing follows the latest supported versions of Drupal. In GitLab CI, you'll have full control over your testing and pipeline configuration. In the last couple of months, we've worked with about 20 contributed module maintainers to test out the GitLab CI and pipeline functionality. We're taking their feedback and using it to build a standard GitLab CI YAML template and determining how to configure environment variables so we can preserve that ability to test against currently supported versions of Drupal and its system requirements. So when will this be available? Well, once the templates are created, we'll make them available to projects in parallel with the existing Drupal CI system, before phasing out Drupal CI completely. After the transition to GitLab CI, the second major feature set will come with the transition to GitLab Issues. With GitLab Issues, among many other features, we'll gain full Markdown support, Kanban boards, and merge request approval rules where code owners can be designated as the approvers for certain sections of a codebase. But before we can transition issues to GitLab, we have a few key challenges to overcome. First, we need to replicate the metadata that we use in existing issues. For that, we'll be using GitLab's labels and scoped labels. The Drupal Spoons community group has already built a migration script that translates Drupal.org issue metadata into labels. Secondly, we want to preserve our contribution credit system. GitLab is interested in incorporating Drupal-style contribution credit into their core platform. But until they've done so, we're going to use a bot to create contribution credit records for each GitLab issue on Drupal.org. Finally, we want to make sure that issues are collaborative by default. Typically, on GitLab.com or GitHub, users have to be granted access to collaborate on someone's fork, or else create forks of forks. Instead, we've worked with the GitLab team so that forks opened on our GitLab instance will be in a shared workspace where any other Drupal contributor can collaborate. This gives us the best of GitLab's fork merge workflow, while still preserving our community value of working together on a single solution. We still have a long way to go before our tooling migration is complete, but in the coming year, you can look forward to major milestones in each of these areas. And if you're here at DrupalCon and interested in helping out, you can join us in the general contribution space throughout the rest of the conference, or in the GitLab channel on Drupal Slack. Thanks.
Yeah. We have a small but mighty dedicated team working on this at the Drupal Association, which is really, really nice. All right, one more big topic before I can wrap up, and that is making core smaller. All right, let's talk about that. So the idea is to responsibly move modules out of Drupal core to contrib. And the reason why that might be a good idea, or why we believe this is a good idea, is because if we have less code to maintain in core, we can focus more on innovation, on the things that people are, really asking us to work on, like maybe automated updates. But we also believe that certain modules could innovate faster in contrib, where there is less rules or less process to innovate, and even, and maybe even the core committers, they don't have a great vision for a module. Like maybe they don't have a great vision for a quick edit, let's say, but people in contrib might have a great vision for how they can advance quick edit. So there's multiple reasons why we believe certain modules could innovate faster in contrib. So then the question is, like, how many modules should we move from core to contrib? And we've been thinking about this with the core committers team, and we have some initial ideas which I want to present to you next. So the first thing we did is we asked ourselves, what are the core capabilities that Drupal always has to have, right? What do we have to be good at today, in 10 years, in 20 years? Well, we'll never, ever change. And we call those the 4 foundational capabilities, because these are the things we don't want to move out of core. And so we came up with 4, as you can already see on the screen. The first one is content modeling. Things like views, fields, layouts, everything that you need to model content. The second grouping is content authoring. Obviously, you need to enter content into Drupal. You may want workflows and revisions. Multilingual is key as well. The third category is delivery of the content. So you model content, you enter content, and then you want to deliver the content. And obviously, we need our sort of traditional HTML delivery with Twig or whatever templating system, but also omni-channel content delivery through things like JSON API or other kind of REST-based solutions. And then the fourth category is kind of, we call it system operations. It's all the things you need to be able to use Drupal, like maybe the toolbar module to navigate the backend, logging users and permissions and roles. All of these things are kind of essential to have a functioning site, or the module system or extension mechanism so you can install modules. So these are the 4 foundational capabilities. And so what we did is we actually went through all of the modules in core, and we asked, does this match the one of the 4 foundational capabilities? And if it did, we gave it some points. If it didn't, we didn't give it any points. So we did that for every module. We also looked at, is this module used a lot? And we have some of that information through some of the telemetry on Drupal.org, these kinds of things. And we gave it some points based on how commonly used each module in core is. We also said, well, is this a strategic module? Like maybe JSON API could be an example of a module that isn't used a lot, but it's very strategic to our future. So the core committers could say, well, this is a strategic module for us, like we don't want to get rid of it. Maybe it just needs more time to be commonly used. And the last question that we asked is it a lot of work to maintain the module? So we gave it some points using the system. And then, if we had more than 2, we said, well, we should keep it. If the sum of the points is 2 or less, we should consider removing it. So let's take a look at a couple of quick examples. So views is kind of an obvious one that we would want to keep, right? It's very foundational. It's about content modeling, content delivery. I mean, it does all of these amazing things. It's used by 99% of Drupal sites, I would say, because some of the admin screens are even built in views. And it's obviously strategic because it's a differentiator for us. But it's also hard to maintain. It's a large code base. But that doesn't mean we would need to or want to remove it, right? The benefits outweigh sort of that maintenance work. So that's one that we should definitely keep. Then we looked at forum module, for example, and we felt, well, that's maybe one that we should move because, in 2022, it's no longer that strategic, and it's not really foundational to Drupal, and it's actually not used a lot in today's world. The maintenance, we call it kind of medium, so, all things considered, we felt that's a candidate for removal. And then some other modules are a little bit harder, like contact module, we were kind of undecided, because it's used a lot. It's actually easy to maintain, so it doesn't add a lot of overhead. But it's also maybe not foundational and not strategic. So it just means we need to discuss these things a little bit more. Maybe we want to tweak our algorithm a little bit. But as I mentioned, we went through all of the modules in core. There's about 80. So we went through them one by one. And based on our initial assessment, this would result in us removing about 20% of all the modules. We identified roughly 16 modules for removal, and we would keep 64. So that's basically the idea. Now, some of you might be like, ooh, I don't know, removing modules from core. What about the quality? Would the quality regress? Will they still be accessible like maybe they are when they're maintained in core? Will they still be compatible with each other if we move them to contrib? And does that mean we have to upgrade our code more if we use them, right? Because you have sort of more individual modules. And so I wanted to address these concerns really, really quick because we actually believe that the things that I just talked about, like project browser, we can show quality metrics in the project browser and we can create new quality metrics. Maybe we can even show when a project team is committing to a certain accessibility level, right? We could show that in the project browser pages, and people can choose to install a module, based on these metrics. Modular compatibility, we actually think the starter templates concept can help here because maintainers of starter templates, they'll be testing modules together, have configuration, to configure them and have them work together. And so starter templates can help with that as well. And obviously, you may have to do more upgrades because each of these modules will have their own independent release cycle. But if we have the automated update system, these updates become a lot easier to do. They'll be more automated. And so we feel pretty excited about it. We've kind of nicknamed this initiative the Great Module Migration for now. We might come up with a different name, but we're pretty excited about it, about the ability to accelerate innovation that way. All right, so if we think about how do we accelerate innovation, we think Gitlab and reducing the scope and size of core and getting rid of modules that we don't use a lot will be a good decision. All right, and so these two things that I just talked about, empowering site builders and accelerating contrib innovation, are two strategic themes for the next 2 years. And I drew in this infinity symbol in the slide. Can you see it? And it's because we believe that will create a flywheel. If we attract more ambitious site builders, we turn them into contributors, they will create more things for people to install and use in Drupal. And so together, I believe this will impact Drupal's speed of innovation, which is pretty exciting. I'm calling this 2-year strategy Composable Core, and the idea is that Drupal will become smaller but more composable, and that the combination of all these things, project browser, starter templates, automated updates, and a smaller core, will make it much easier for us to promote innovation, compose different kinds of sites with Drupal, and actually go a little bit faster. So that's the strategy at the high level. What do you think? Makes sense? Yeah? Awesome. All right, so that leaves us with initiatives. Now, the good news is we've talked about the strategy in depth. There's not a lot to discuss relative to proposed initiatives. Basically already, told it all, but we need to focus on project browser. We need starter templates. We need automated updates. We need Gitlab to be completed. And we want a smaller core. And then, of course, we also have to keep core up to date and secure, so we have to manage all of the third-party dependencies like Symfony, CK Editor, and many other components. And so really the proposed initiatives at this point for Drupal 11 would be these 6 things, right? Pretty easy. Many of them are actually continuations of things we've already started. There's a few new things in here, but for the most part, it's just continuing to do what we were already doing. So we're not making a 180 or something. We're just continuing the progress that we've been making. So to bring it all together, we update the mission statement. That's big news, I think, to ambitious site builders. We proposed a 2-year strategy around sort of a more composable Drupal, where we promote innovation in Contrib and make it super easy for people to use Contrib. We're taking that to the next level. And then we're also continuing to focus on accelerating innovation in Contrib. And then we propose 6 initiatives to implement that strategy. So I'm excited about it. Is there more I would like to do? Yes. We might talk about that in the future, but if I think about some of the things that could really help Drupal is maybe embracing web components or completely rebuilding the admin UI of Drupal in a decoupled way, right? Or redesigning fields and CCK, because frankly, we haven't touched the user experience of these capabilities for a long time. I love to do all of these things. The challenge is these are big projects. They typically take maybe 3 or 4 people for 9 to 12 months. And we've been thinking about how to solve that as well. We haven't solved it yet, but we've been thinking about how can we add more initiatives that do these big boulders of work. And the Drupal Association, is basically working on the Certified Partner Program. And we're combining those ideas with the credit system with the goal to encourage more organizations to contribute bigger initiatives to Drupal. Can we get organizations in our ecosystem to say, I'm going to dedicate 3 people for 6 months, and I'm going to put my shoulders under one of these big initiatives. So we're going to try that. We don't know if we'll be successful, but we're going to be working with different agencies in the Drupal community. And so stay tuned for more on that over the next year or so. So that's it, really. So thank you for listening. Yeah. Thank you.